All right, now we have three wild card series pushed to the brink. And the defending champs, well, they're moving on, but they still have a huge question mark.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully with Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube page, and leave your comment. And when you do, make sure you have that hashtag Everyday Sully. It helps us find where the comments are. And there we are. It's a fun, wild day and night of baseball. And we're going to have one more day where we're going to have three do or die games. And we had one that wrapped up. But first, let's go through the trivia question. The trivia question is this: who is the only Yankee pitcher to throw a postseason series clinching pitch against the Boston Red Sox? Now, there may be a second name on this list tomorrow if the Yankees do indeed go back and win the wild card series. However, we got most people writing. Well, some people wrote Aaron Boone, and Aaron Boone did get a series clinching hit off of the Red Sox. However, that was not a series clinching pitch, nor was he a Yankee pitcher. Most of the people wrote Mariano Rivera, and a couple of people wrote Rich Gossage, even though I made it clear that the Bucky Dent game was not a postseason game. That was a tiebreaker game. But Gavin Adi Luhash 2994 got it correct. It was Ramiro Mendoza. Ramiro Mendoza was brilliant out of the bullpen in the 1999 American League Championship Series. And all due respect to El Duque Hernandez, who pitched very well, thank you very much, in that series, I think Ramiro Mendoza was actually the most valuable player of that series because he squashed huge Red Sox rallies in games 2 and in game 5, which basically took the air out of the balloon for the Red Sox to have any hope in that series. We're going to talk a little bit about the series and the hope in that series for tomorrow, a little bit later in the show. But first, let's go over who owned October. Who are the big stars of the 4 games that were played? That'll give us a pretty good overview of everything. Mookie Betts smacked 3 doubles and a single, scoring a run, driving in 3 as the Dodgers doubled up the Reds and clinched that series. Jazz Chisholm Jr. Made a great play that saved a run in that agonizing bases-loaded rally for the Red Sox, and then manufactured a run himself by taking off and then scoring on what was essentially a single by Wells, and put the Yankees ahead 4-3 for good. Manny Machado got a big 2-run home run as the Padres topped the Cubs. Adrian Morjon, sorry, gave him a terrible name, gave 2.5 innings of relief for the Padres in their victory of the Cubs. Bo Naylor put away the game between Cleveland and Detroit with a big 3-run home run. Carlos Rodon, I give the guy credit. He wasn't great, but he pitched into the 7th, and the Yankees needed that. And in the end, it wasn't a great performance, but it was a gutsy one. And the Yankees wound up holding on to a 4-3 win. Cade Smith was terrific, getting the last 4 outs of Cleveland's 6-1 win over the Tigers. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto was great in allowing just a couple of unearned runs as the Dodgers wound up beating the Reds. Half wobs went to Javier Baez with his 2-for-4 performance. Tyler Holton, who pitched well the bullpen for the Tigers. Nick Lodolo pitched well for the Reds. Out of the bullpen, Colin Ray, who pitched well out of the bullpen for the Cubbies. Sal Stewart drove in 3 runs in the Reds' 8-4 loss to the Dodgers. Trevor Story was amazing. He got a game-tying 2-run single and a game-tying home run and came up just short of a go-ahead grand slam The Red Sox fell to the Yankees 4-3. Justin Wilson pitched well out of the bullpen for the Red Sox. And Seiya Suzuki now has a woo total of 1.5. So right now, Seiya Suzuki owns October. He doubled in the loss. The Cubs lost to San Diego, and his woo total right now is 1.5. So right now, this is Seiya Suzuki's postseason, and we're all just living in it. The Dodgers fell behind 2-0. A little sloppy defense at the top, and then Stewart 2-run hit. And since he was up 2 runs before the Dodgers came to bat, and there's a tiny part of me thought, isn't that interesting? What if all 4 teams, all 4 series go the limit, and we just have an amazing 4 do or die games in one day? Well, that didn't happen because the aforementioned Mookie Betts went bananas. However, the 8-4 final was a little deceiving in terms of the tension that it brought in Los Angeles, because Friedel came up in the 8th inning as the tying run. If he wound up getting a hold of one, it would have been tied, and there would have been a battle of the bullpen between Cincinnati and Los Angeles. Now, as it turned out, he didn't. He got a called third strike. The Dodgers wound up getting the last 3 outs. But wow, this bullpen once again for LA. It's a if you're a Dodger fan, and I'm here in Los Angeles County, and I'm living amongst Dodger fans here, and for Dodger fans, yes, it's binary. They won the 2 games. They're going to go on and face Philadelphia. Philadelphia, I don't know if you know this, is really, really good. They're the team that I picked to win the World Series. And they have a really good team. And a lot better than Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a nice team. And it's a great story that they finished above 500. But they didn't exactly, they weren't exactly barn burners at the end. They took a big advantage of the Mets collapse, and they made it to the playoffs. And this is a great first step for the Reds and Francona. I said at the beginning of the year, Francona did not come here for a rebuild, and that's the truth. And so going into next year, building on the momentum of getting into the postseason, getting the first taste of it, that is a terrific thing for Cincinnati moving forward. LA has much bigger goals on their agenda. And if they want to make it back to the World Series, oh my God, they're facing a huge opponent. You could make the case that the NLCS, the best matchup in the NLCS, could be Philadelphia versus LA. I wouldn't make that case because I think that Milwaukee is a more complete team than LA. Not bigger star power, but just they don't have the holes that LA has. And that is that massive, gigantic hole they have in their bullpen. Now, they use Sasaki to close it out. It wasn't a save situation, but I think Sasaki and Kershaw should be the closers against Philadelphia. Or maybe use Kershaw for a 3-inning save. You sort of say, okay, game one or 2, Kershaw's going to pitch the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. If they're going to start Glass, I think they're going to start Glass now. I could be wrong, but start him game 1 and have the Kershaw pitch the last 3 innings. Anything to avoid this bullpen, because this bullpen's a big pile of stink, and that's going to come back. They're able to get away with it in the series against Cincinnati. No offense to Cincinnati. They're a nice team. It's a nice story. But now, as Mike Francesa would say, now they're facing the varsity. And they're going to be facing much better starting pitchers and superstars in their lineup, and a team that has legit pennant contending hopes. So whatever your bullpen situation is, you got to put in the dumpster. It's playoff time. You have to manage differently. You have to handle this team differently. Look what Cora did in 2018. Yes, the Red Sox were doing all sorts of shenanigans off the field, but he also mixed and matched and just used the pitchers at the moments where they needed to be used. Eovaldi started, came out of the pen. Parcello started, came out of the pen. Price started, came out of the pen. Sale started, came out of the pen. Doesn't matter. Eduardo Rodriguez started and came out of the pen. Just use the best pitchers at the right time. Don't care about the stats, because If you do, if you go by, here's our lane, here's here's this line that they go by, that is going to be the moment where you say, huh, who would have thought the Dodgers season would have ended so quickly?
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, it hits, you unlock 300 tomatoes in bonus bets across the app. You know, no matter how you do your betting, whether it's your parlays you build up, your player props, you do the live lines during the game, FanDuel has you covered. It makes football even more exciting because it gives you a little something riding on each game. Now, whether you're a casual fan like I am or you're just diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the football game day so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today and get started.
Now, the other series are going to be pretty darn interesting because we have 3 do or die games going on starting tomorrow afternoon. And the first one, of course, is going to be in Cleveland because they got the short end of the stick of all the games being started. Now, boy, oh boy, this is an interesting game. And it feels like Cleveland and Detroit have been locking antlers and basically fighting for the Central for the last month. And even though the Guardians wound up winning the division, this feels like the American League Central Championship Series. That's what it feels like to me. That in the regular season, Cleveland finished a game ahead, but now they're facing off. And Slade Ciccone is going to be starting for the Cleveland Guardians. And he is someone who is, he had a couple of very, very good games down the stretch. He had a terrific game against Minnesota, a great game against, allowed one hit. Remember, I think he was flirted with a no-hitter in that game. And he won several games along the way. Didn't do so well in his final game, which was a loss against the Detroit Tigers, but he is someone who is capable of a big game. He's not an ace. He's not a superstar, but he is capable of it and making his postseason debut. Meanwhile, Detroit is going to be starring Mr. Flaherty. And Mr. Flaherty, as we remember, came up big in his first start in the World Series last year when he pitched for LA. But Jack Flaherty pitched well against the Yankees and against Cleveland. He actually he pitched well against Cleveland in the middle of September, but not so well in his final game on the 24th day of September, right around the time of the Detroit Tigers free fall. He has had an up and down year. He's obviously a talented pitcher. He led the league in loss, but I don't care about that. Win-loss records are borderline meaningless. He's had some terrific starts. He's had some lousy starts. Basically, what we're going to see probably is another parade of relievers. Now, I'm going to bring this up probably on the Friday show. We can't sustain this. A team has to step up and say, we're going to develop pitchers differently. We're going to handle pitchers differently, because you can't have situations like we saw in the Red Sox Yankee game, like we saw in the Detroit Cleveland game, or in the Padres Cubs game. Like every team, like there were low scoring games and the pitchers were out by the 3rd or 4th inning and going to a parade of relievers. And at some point in this postseason, this is going to bite a team. At some point, one of these games are going to go extra innings, and you got to look back to say, oh, geez, we could have squeezed an inning or two out of this starter, or maybe we should have, the relief pitcher who threw 6 pitches, maybe they could have come out for another inning. It's going to bite a team in the butt because they're going to run out of pitchers. It will happen this postseason. Mark my words. But this is going to be a game where I think the starting pitchers are going to have very little effect on what the game is going to be. And it's probably going to be a back and forth game. And frankly, I'm going to give the edge to Cleveland because they're at home. and they showed with the Naylor home run, they woke up and showed us a little something. Darvish is pitching for the Padres. Jameson Taillon is pitching for the Cubbies. I have zero feel for that. By the way, the most, Manny Machado hit the big home run today, but I think the big play, probably the most underappreciated play, was a great catch made by Fernando Tatis Jr. in the 8th inning as the Cubs were trying to rally. I think Pete Crow Armstrong hit it, but either way, he made a running catch that was going to basically would have been an RBI double and start a real rally, kept the rally going for the Chicago Cubs. This is a bit of a coin toss. Darvish sometimes could be brilliant, sometimes not. Same thing with Taillon. But I picked the Padres at the beginning, and I'm going to stick with them. I like their star power. And boy, you know what? This just shows you something. The Red Sox and the Yankees. Let's talk about the game for a bit. Remember, before the playoffs started, I picked the Yankees to win that series. What I said at the beginning of the series was this, that the Red Sox were probably going to win the Garrett Crochet start. Turned out to be right. And I said the Yankees had the advantage in games 2 and 3, especially with Giolito hurt. And the fact that they didn't have, the Red Sox are pretty much going to be gambling on their game 3 starter. I thought there was a huge amount of pressure for Boston to win the game tonight. I think that if they won the game tonight, obviously they move on, but also you don't have to worry about the fact that, Giolito is out, pretty much for the postseason. And so they're going to be just mixing and matching, having the 14th caller from WEEI starting in game 3. And so avoiding that altogether, what I thought behooved the Red Sox. And you got to give Jazz Chisholm Jr. credit because he saved a run on the, when the pinch hit by Yoshida, he prevented that from going to the outfield, and they couldn't send home the go-ahead run. And he did that mad dash, he went from first to home, and what was essentially a single by Wells. That was the difference. His speed was the difference. And the fact that he wasn't in the lineup and Ben Rice wasn't in the lineup in game 1, forget lefty-righty at this point. You have to have Chisholm in that lineup, but you have to have Ben Rice in that lineup. And both of them contributed. Rice with a home run earlier, and then, but Chisholm saved the game for the Yankees. May have saved their season. And right now, I think the Yankees have an advantage just in that they're going to be playing at home. Early is going to be pitching for the Red Sox, and the Yankees do have a history of not playing well against pitchers they've never seen before. And so a young pitcher like Early might be the time that gives him fits. Plus Chapman didn't come in today, so he could probably go 2 innings. So you're hoping Early can give you something. They used everyone but Wally, the mascot, pitching today. And those parade of reliever games just drive me absolutely batty. Schlittler is pitching for the Yankees, and he's pitched very well, thank you very much, down the stretch. But once again, it's a young pitcher. There are lots of pitchers who pitch well this year, and they get in the postseason, things go wrong. Things go absolutely wrong. So it's a bit of a coin toss. But as I was watching the game and really frustrated because it was just, they got bases loaded, especially when Rodon's control went away, and then Williams led up the leadoff hit to base loaded, and Story hit the deep fly ball, which for a second I thought was going to be a grand slam. That would have put him ahead, and then this becomes academic. And then of course they get Bregman gets the hit off of Williams in the 8th. They couldn't bring him home. The double play killed the rally. And then they go out against Bednar in the 9th inning. And so here we go. It's really, you got basically 2 rookie pitchers on the mound and these 2 lineups. And the Yankees have an advantage with the lineup. Now, the Yankees, again, they wound up winning the game because they did something they didn't normally do. They got the home run early, and then they scored a run because of a misplay in left field, which should have been the final out of the inning. They got judged to fly out, but there was a misplay by Duran in left field, and he was picked up by the Story home run that tied the game. But that should have been a run taken off the board. But the Yankees scored the winning run and the winning rally in a way that they don't normally do, which they manufactured a run. Let me rephrase that. Jazz Chisholm Jr. manufactured a run. And that was a big thing for the Yankees. They were able to score a run without a homer. They were able to create a run. If the Yankees can figure out how to do that with any sort of regularity, then they have a good shot of beating the Red Sox tomorrow. And I picked the Yankees. I'm a native New Englander, grew up rooting for the Red Sox, grew up hating the Yankees. I picked the Yankees to win this series because I thought Crochet was going to win this game and the Yankees were going to win the others because the Yankees had the better pitching lineup in the other games. And so far, I've been prophetic. But there's another thing that happened way before this series that in a weird way, I know Red Sox fans don't want to hear this at all, but I think is coming back to haunt them a little bit.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement on this football season or the baseball playoffs with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football, baseball. You just pick more than or less than on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or number of home runs Giancarlo Stanton's going to hit, and you're in the game. And Prize Picks just added stacks. So if you want to ride a player, you can select their pass yards, rush yards, touchdowns, home runs, all in one lineup. Obviously, you can't combine football and baseball, but you know what you mean. You can make your lineup in under a minute. And it's always fun to follow the players in the app and copy their lineups with just one click. And the new injury reboot feature, so if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it's not going to count against you. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB and $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live, and I'm thinking about going to one of the playoff games in Los Angeles. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but you know what? Actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. You got the long lines, the login screens, the surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets, and they're delivered on time and the right price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. And you know what? You cannot have a more simple app for buying your tickets. You can see the exact view from the seat before you buy, and you know the total up front. There's no surprise fees. And now for me, zone deals, that's the best. At Dodger Stadium, I like to sit in not the upper deck, not the lower deck, but the middle deck, a little bit up the first base line. That's the best view in the whole stadium. So I pick the zone. Game Time gets the best seat and the best deal, and you save big. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's less stressful than any other ways you bought tickets. So guess what? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go to Game Time today.
By the way, we're doing this one live. Anyone in the live chat, if there's any issues with my sound, let me know because I've been having some tech issues. Back in June, the Red Sox made a trade sending Rafael Devers and his salary to San Francisco. Now, Harrison is on the playoff roster, and he's apparently probably will come out tomorrow. But nobody else from that trade is really going to play a factor in this playoff series. Now, I know there was trouble in paradise. I know there was things that were unsavory about when Devers' final weeks with the Red Sox. I know that there was the thought process has been they got better after the trade and the Giants got worse. And part of me is watching this series saying, damn it, we need Rafael Devers. We need Rafael, and I'm sorry I said we. The Red Sox need Rafael Devers in this. They need that big, huge thumper in the middle of the lineup. They need that big, huge run producer. Bregman is nice. Story had a great day today. Devers was a Yankee killer. In his final game as a member of the Red Sox, he clobbered the Yankees. That's what he did. That's what he lived for. And I look in this team, yes, they're doing a great job mixing, matching, getting gutty performance out of this and that, and squeezing runs out of a stone, but they need that big thumper in the middle of the lineup, and they don't have it. Now, if they still had Roman Anthony wasn't the big thumper, but he was a spark plug. And I understand that losing Anthony from this lineup was huge. He was starting to be what Jacoby Ellsbury was to the 2007 and 2008 Red Sox teams. I get it. I get it that the feel of this lineup would be a lot different if Roman Anthony was in the middle of it. But holy cow, this team, knowing how every time Rafi Devers saw a Yankee pitcher, he started to salivate. The Red Sox needed that big swing, that big thumper. How many people have they left on base? How bad could it have been with Rafi Devers? I understand the logic behind it. I do. I hated it then, and I hated it today. Find a way to get along. Find a way to get along. Now, yes, the Red Sox dumped his salary, and theoretically that means they can go on a big shopping spree next year. And maybe that's exactly what they have to do. In many ways, this team reminds me of the 2016 and 2017 teams with a lot of young players getting their first shot with the postseason with the Red Sox. But in 2016, they had Ortiz. They didn't have that big thumper in the middle of the lineup in 2017. And the next year, they brought in J.D. Martinez, who was the perfect slugger. He wasn't the 50 home run hitter, but he was the perfect run-producing slugger that they put in the middle of that lineup. But, of course, he was tremendous, and they wound up winning the World Series, also thanks to some shenanigans off the field. Man, oh man, this team needed Rafael Devers. Rafael Devers in the middle of this lineup. Or maybe another slugger. Like, I don't know, who's the big slugger on the Dodgers? Mookie Betts. Why can't the Red Sox get players like Mookie Betts? Imagine Mookie Betts in the middle of this lineup today. Ah, well, we'll see what happens. We're going to absolutely see what happens in what should be a super fun day of baseball starting at 10 in the morning here in California. And thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB game night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. It's not going to be the Reds. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB game night on this feed, the Locked On MLB feed on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Let's bring out the trivia question, shall we? Trivia question is, in 1972, both league championship series went the distance. It was the first time that both of them went the distance. Back then, the LCS was a best of 5. The A's wound up topping the Tigers, and the Reds squeaked past the defending champion Pirates. So the A's went to the World Series for the first time since 1931 when they won the 72 ALCS. And here is the question. What A's pitcher got the save to clinch the 1972 ALCS? What A's pitcher closed out the A's pennant in 1972, their first since being the Philadelphia A's in 1931? That is a trivia question. Put it down here in the YouTube comment section. Talking about the Dodgers moving on, but their problems persisting. The Cleveland, Detroit, San Diego, Chicago, Boston, and New York series all going the distance. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.